Hello class, my name is Isaiah Weller and today I will be showing you how to shoot a compound bow. I love archery and it has been a hobby of mine for about a year now, so um, let's get started. Before we start, I think it's important to know the general parts of the bow, so I'll give those to you briefly. These are your cams and these are to adjust your draw length, and your draw length, by draw length I mean how far the string will pull back before stopping. Mm, these are your limbs. These can be tightened to adjust how heavy your draw pull is. So if you are if you want to go hunting, you want a stronger draw pull so your arrow is faster. Whereas if you are just practicing around home, you can loosen them so it's not as hard to pull back and it's not as hard on your back and your shoulder. This is your handle or riser. It runs the length of the bow. It's your handle. This is your stabilizer. So you get a stabilizer so that your bow is generally level with on the front and back. So when you're holding it all the way out at full draw, it's not trying to pull back one way or the other. This is your front sight, and this is what you would aim with. And this is your peep sight. You, when you're at full draw, this should line up with your front sight, and you look through this and line it up with this in order to get a sight picture and aim. This is your whisker basket, and this is where you put your arrow in that hole, and this holds your arrow while your arrow is attached to your string, so when you release it, it shoots it straight. These are your strings, obviously, and that's pretty straightforward. And these are your silencers, and along with these, and they take care of vibrations as well as sound, so your bow's not loud. This is your release. You should definitely get a release for shooting your bow because if you use your fingers, first of all, it's very hard on your fingers. Second of all, your your fingers have a tendency to slip, and if you slip without an arrow in your bow, that is extremely bad, as I'll get to in the warnings. So make sure you get a good trigger release, and so that you uh, don't have a tendency to dry fire. So now let's talk about a couple warnings. When you're shooting a bow, you should use general gun, the same thing as gun warnings. So don't always treat it as if it's loaded. Obviously, it's not loaded. There's no arrow in there, but always treat it as a weapon because it is a weapon. Never shoot at something or aim at something that you don't want to destroy. Also, when you are shooting, make sure you know what your target is and make sure you know it's behind your target so that if you miss the target, it doesn't go into somebody or something that you don't, again, wish to destroy. Also, now we can get to another warning would be dry firing. Never dry fire your bow. If you dry fire your bow, it could potentially destroy it. So by dry firing, I mean you've got it at full or somewhere in between full and pulled back, and you let go and it snaps without an arrow in there. If you do this, there's nothing to take all of that energy. Like when you have an arrow in there and you let it go, all the energy goes into the arrow to shoot it out. And bows are not made to take that without an arrow. So if you dry fire it, it can be very bad. If you do end up dry firing it, you should check your cams. Make sure your cams are lined up still. Make sure there's no bends or twists in them because that could be very bad. Also, your limbs. Check your limbs. Make sure there's no um, flaky paint or chips coming off because if it is chipping and you did do damage by dry firing it, when you dry fire it, when you fire it again for real, so you could send half of your limb or cam or whatever it may be into your arm or whatever, because uh, the integrity of the bow has been greatly reduced. So it's a good idea not to dry fire your bow. Also, another warning is to just keep it away from children. It is a weapon, and obviously kids should know how to um, be safe around weapons, but don't just leave it laying out. Um, so now let's get into shooting it. When you are Before you shoot it, you should make sure you have your draw length set. The way that you determine this is by measuring from your fingertip to fingertip with your arm stretched out and dividing it by 2.5. That'll give you your draw length, and by draw length, what you are at full strength, what your strength should be. My draw length is 28 inches, so this bow is set for 28 inches. And also with your feet, how you stand, you should have your feet shoulder width apart. Stand perpendicular to your target, so you're lined up perpendicular. And so now let's do this. So first thing you do is you load an arrow, putting your arrow through your whisker basket up here and hooking it onto your string down here. It should hook right in between the D loop right there and go through your whisker basket there. You should then hook your trigger release onto your D loop and then pull back. When you are fully pulled back, you should be able to look down to your front, to your target, look through your peep sight to your front sight, and when you're ready to shoot, you just pull your trigger and the bow should go pop. And make sure you're not jerking the trigger, because if you jerk the trigger, your bow will lurch and it will knock up your arrow. So you want to make sure that you're very slow but controlled with your trigger pull, so that you're not messing up the arrow as it goes out. Also, with practice, it gets better. It always is. Everything is better with practice. So if you're planning on picking up archery, always practice. So that is how you shoot a compound bow. I hope it was informative and that it made sense. And thank you.